Power has never belonged to truth. It has always belonged to appearance, to the art of shaping what others believe to be true. Men do not see the world as it is. They see it as it is shown to them. And he who controls the stage controls the mind. Every throne, every presidency, every empire rests not on the solidity of truth, but on the fragility of perception. The masses do not follow substance. They follow symbols. They do not love the leader who is good. They love the leader who looks good. In politics, virtue without appearance is invisible, and appearance without virtue is irresistible. What matters is not the man you are, but the mask you wear. Every ruler who forgets this law is devoured by those who never did. The world is a theater of illusions. Men play roles so convincingly that they forget they are acting. The powerful pretend to be humble, the weak pretend to be righteous, and the masses pretend to be free. But beneath these performances lies a single law: perception is reality, and reality obeys those who master perception. The great deceivers do not lie to destroy, they lie to command belief. To rule is not to be virtuous, but to be believed virtuous. The people do not ask for truth, they ask for comfort. They want to be deceived by beauty, not confronted by reason. They prefer the polished lie that flatters them to the naked truth that exposes them. And so, politics becomes a dance of masks where sincerity is weakness and illusion is strength. Every ruler must learn this. The eye is more powerful than the mind. The people will judge not by your actions, but by the image your actions cast. They will forgive crimes if cloaked in justice, but condemn justice if it looks cruel. Appear benevolent while you strike. Appear reluctant while you command. Power moves through appearance like light, through glass, its source unseen, but its reflection blinding. Even the most ruthless conqueror must disguise his cruelty as necessity, his ambition as duty, his manipulation as virtue. The game is not to deceive once, but to maintain the illusion without breaking it. The mask must become the face. The act must become belief. And in time, even you, the ruler, may forget which is real. That is the final price of mastery. To live trapped within the illusion you created. Every age worships its own illusions. Once, it was divine right. Later, it was liberty. Now, it is authenticity. Yet, even authenticity has become a performance, a carefully managed lie sold as truth. The politician who claims honesty is merely a better actor. The influencer who preaches sincerity is a craftsman of masks. We have not escaped illusion, we have refined it. To survive in this age, one must not destroy appearances, but command them. Power no longer lies in armies, but in the control of narrative. To control what people see, hear, and feel, that is the new conquest. Empires are no longer built with swords, but with stories. Wars are fought not for territory, but for belief. And he who can shape belief shapes destiny. You must understand this. The crowd never seeks the truth, only reassurance. They want to be told they are right, that their tribe is good, their cause is just, their anger pure. Give them that illusion and they will serve you faithfully. Challenge it and they will crucify you. The ruler must therefore feed the illusions that sustain loyalty, while hiding the truths that would destroy it. Appearances are not lies. They are instruments. They are the language through which power speaks to human weakness. Men fear isolation more than deceit. They would rather live inside a comforting falsehood than face the terror of truth alone. Thus, every successful leader must become a craftsman of appearances, a weaver of shared fictions that keep chaos contained. If you wish to rule, learn to play both sides of illusion, the one you show the world and the one you show yourself, because self-deception is the ruler's final defense. To command others, you must first silence doubt within. The mask you wear must no longer feel foreign. The smile must feel sincere. The lie must feel righteous. Only then will the illusion hold. Look around you. Nations are ruled by images, economies by confidence, revolutions by emotion. A rumor can collapse a government faster than a war. A single photograph can destroy a reputation built over decades. In such a world, truth becomes irrelevant. What matters is the spectacle. The one who understands this who directs the gaze, rather than follows it, commands the aid. Appearances rule not because men are foolish, but because perception is the shield of order. Truth is dangerous, it destabilizes, divides, disillusions. Illusion, on the other hand, binds. It unites through shared symbols, shared enemies, shared myths. To expose the illusion is to unravel the unity. Therefore, every ruler must learn restraint, to use truth like a surgeon's knife, not a hammer. Do not mistake appearance for weakness. The mask is armor. It protects you from the gaze of others, from their envy, their suspicion, their hatred. The moment you remove it, they see your vulnerability and they strike. To be powerful is to be unseen beneath the image, to act invisibly while appearing transparent. That is the true paradox of authority, to be visible yet unreachable, familiar yet unknowable. Even love, in politics, is performance. The ruler must appear to love his people, and the people must appear to love him. Whether either is true does not matter, only that the illusion persists long enough to maintain stability. For affection in politics is a currency, not a virtue. When it fades, fear must replace it, and when fear fades, illusion must be renewed. This is why appearances rule the world, because man is not guided by reason, but by impressions. He trusts what he sees more than what he thinks. He craves images that confirm his desires, not truths that challenge them. Therefore, to govern is to understand man's hunger for illusion and to feed it strategically. Power does not come from domination, but from directing the eyes of others toward the image you choose. So remember, you are never judged for who you are, only for what you appear to be. Truth can wait. Perception never sleeps. And in this endless theater of human ambition, the only law that endures, the only Machiavellian law that survives the centuries is this: appearances rule the world, because men would rather live by illusion than die by truth. Those who rise to power, believing that sincerity will save them, soon discover that honesty is not a virtue in politics, it is a liability. The world does not reward truth. It rewards those who can make truth useful. Appear too honest, and you will seem naive. Reveal too much, and you will be predictable. Show too little, and you will be distrusted. The art of leadership is not the absence of honesty, but the orchestration of it. One must learn when to speak, when to conceal, and when to lie by silence. The ruler who understands timing will always defeat the one who believes that virtue alone will compel obedience. Power does not emerge from morality. It emerges from perception. The people do not care what you are. They care what you appear to be in the moment they are watching. Their love is not loyal. It is conditional, emotional, and brief. They are drawn to strength, to spectacle, to the confidence that promises safety, even if it is built on illusion. Thus, appearances are not a deception of the people, they are the language through which the ruler communicates necessity. You cannot tell the masses the truth of the world, because they cannot bear it. To maintain order, one must translate reality into symbols, and symbols into faith. The leader becomes a storyteller, shaping chaos into narrative. In every kingdom, every nation, every movement, appearances have been the scaffolding of authority. Religion built its cathedrals on appearance. Monarchs wrapped divine purpose around their thrones through ceremonial illusion. Democracies disguise their power struggles as moral debates. Revolutions wear masks of justice to hide their hunger for control. The shape of the illusion changes, but its purpose remains constant: to justify power in a form that the masses can accept without understanding. When people believe they are free, they obey more willingly. When they believe they are moral, they kill without guilt. The ruler who knows how to create these illusions rules not only the body of his people, but their souls. In politics, sincerity must be rationed like gold. Too little, and you become a shadow. Too much, and you become a martyr. The wise ruler understands that truth, like poison, must be diluted before it can be swallowed. One must give the people enough illusion to maintain faith, but enough truth to prevent delusion. Appear open, yet never reveal your strategy. Appear humble, yet never relinquish control. The mask must never slip completely. For the moment it does, the audience will turn away not because they despise you, but because the spell is broken. People love the idea of goodness, not the burden of seeing how it is made. The illusion of competence is more powerful than competence itself. Many men of great skill fall because they fail to project certainty. Many fools succeed because they understand how to appear decisive. Power flows not from wisdom, but from confidence, the performance of control. To lead is to play the part of one who knows, even when you are surrounded by uncertainty. Appear unwavering, and men will follow. Reveal doubt, and they will devour you. The crowd's faith depends not on your perfection, but on your performance of it. They want to believe someone knows the way, even if the map is imaginary. And yet, illusion is not merely deception, it is structure. Civilization itself rests upon shared illusions: law, justice, money, morality, progress. None of these exist in nature. They exist because men agree to believe in them. Without illusion, society collapses into chaos. Therefore, the ruler who masters illusion is not a liar, but an architect of order. He gives shape to human weakness, transforms fear into faith, ambition into destiny. What the moralist calls manipulation, the realist calls necessity. A society cannot function on naked truth. It must be dressed in symbols, rituals, and myths that give men reason to obey. But illusions are fragile, and every illusion eventually decays. The wise ruler renews them before they break. He understands that the people's faith must be constantly fed with gestures, victories, and spectacles. When belief begins to waver, he stages events to restore confidence: a speech, a scandal, a war, a reform. The illusion must never be left to wither on its own, for the vacuum it leaves will be filled by chaos. A ruler who neglects appearances is like a general who abandons his army's morale. No amount of truth can replace the power of belief. Consider how easily men surrender their reason to those who mirror their desires. The demagogue does not rise because he speaks truth, but because he reflects the dreams and fears of his followers. The people see themselves in his words, their pride in his victories, their vengeance in his cruelty. He becomes not a man, but a mirror. And once they have seen their reflection in him, they will defend him even against reason. For to destroy him would be to confront their own illusion. In this way, the ruler who understands human nature does not fight against illusion, he becomes it. Every man wears a mask, but only the powerful choose theirs. The rest are given theirs by society, by faith, by circumstance. Power, at its core, is the freedom to define your own illusion and impose it upon others. The ruler becomes the author of appearances, the creator of images that others must inhabit. To rule is to write reality, and to survive is to edit it constantly. When appearances are threatened, they must be defended not as lies, but as the foundation of the world itself. For when illusion collapses, power follows. You must learn to see illusion not as corruption, but as instrument. A sword can kill or protect it, depends on who wields it. Likewise, appearance can enslave or preserve. The great ruler bends illusion toward stability. The tyrant bends it toward vanity. The difference is purpose, not method. Appearances are neither good nor evil. They are neutral tools, sharpened by necessity. He who despises them is destroyed by those who use them without shame. The moralist falls because he refuses to play the game. The cynic falls because he plays it without discipline. The survivor plays with precision, neither believing nor disbelieving his own performance. And yet, in the quiet hours, every ruler must face his reflection without the mask. There is always a moment when illusion fades and the truth stares back merciless, unadorned, demanding. It is then that he realizes that power has consumed him not by fear, but by belief. For the longer one wears the mask, the more one becomes it. The illusion, once a tool, becomes a prison, and yet he cannot remove it, for the world no longer sees the man, only the mask. The price of mastery is solitude, and the curse of illusion is to live within it forever. So the law remains eternal. Appearances rule the world, not because truth is powerless, but because truth is intolerable. Men cannot live naked before it. They must clothe themselves in stories, symbols, and shadows that make existence bearable. The ruler who understands this becomes a craftsman of human nature. The one who resists it becomes its victim. The world belongs not to those who speak truth, but to those who can make truth appear beautiful. And in that art, the art of illusion, lies the oldest secret of power. In every epoch, from the ancient palaces of kings to the glass towers of modern democracy, the same law governs the order of men. The illusion of virtue sustains the structure of authority. A state, a company, a movement each survives not by the truth of its ideals, but by the credibility of its image. The ruler who comprehends this does not waste time pleading for sincerity. He crafts impressions that feed the instincts of the crowd. He knows that perception is not decoration, it is the battlefield itself, and he who wins the eye wins the mind. Men are not rational animals, they are impressionable ones. Their loyalty is secured not through reasoned conviction, but through repetition, emotion, and spectacle. They require rituals to feel faith, enemies to feel unity, and symbols to feel purpose. This is why the successful leader always dresses his intentions in the clothing of destiny. He must transform personal ambition into public narrative, turning his desires into the people's salvation. The art of politics is not the art of persuasion, but of transformation, transforming private will into collective illusion. Observe how every regime, from empire to democracy, crafts its theater of legitimacy. The throne becomes a symbol of divine order. The flag becomes an object of worship. The Constitution becomes sacred scripture. The forms differ, but the function remains the same: to turn belief into obedience. Men will fight, suffer, and die for illusions, but they will not lift a finger for reality. Reality demands understanding. Illusion demands devotion. The wise ruler therefore feeds his subjects devotion, not comprehension. He gives them myths to believe in, so they never question the machinery that commands them. Yet this mastery of appearances must never become complacency. Illusions, once created, require maintenance. The ruler must remain vigilant, for time corrodes every image. The people's faith decays as quickly as their memory. They tire of the same performance and demand new spectacles. Power, therefore, is not a monument. It is theater in perpetual rehearsal. The leader must sense when the performance grows stale and reinvent himself before the crowd grows restless. The genius of a ruler lies not in the creation of illusion, but in its renewal. Appearances rule because the crowd needs stability more than truth. They fear uncertainty more than deception. Offer them an illusion that grants meaning to their suffering, and they will embrace it as salvation. But reveal to them the chaos behind the curtain, and they will turn on you as the source of their despair. The ruler must protect them not from tyranny, but from clarity, for clarity is unbearable. Truth strips man of his illusions, and without illusions, he becomes animal again, violent, lost, and uncontrollable. Do not misunderstand this. Illusion is not inherently deceit, it is design. Nature herself rules through illusion, the flower through color, the predator through camouflage, the universe through mystery. Appearances are the natural law of survival. Those who adapt to this law thrive. Those who resist it perish. The lion conceals his intent before the strike. The serpent dazzles before the bite. The statesman smiles before betrayal. Deception is not corruption. It is the signature of life itself. To condemn illusion is to deny the instinct that built civilization. The modern ruler faces a new battlefield, the empire of images. In the digital age, perception moves faster than action. One rumor can undo a strategy. One photograph can destroy a career. One sentence can fracture nations. The war for appearances has left the palace and entered the screen. Every citizen now becomes both audience and actor, both propagandist and pawn. Power has become a spectacle without center, a theater without walls. The new prince must therefore rule not through decree, but through narrative, not through fear of punishment, but through control of attention. In such a world, invisibility becomes the highest form of power. The ruler who can act without being seen, influence without being named, direct without appearing to command, he reigns over both illusion and truth. The visible leader is a lightning rod, adored today, crucified tomorrow. The invisible architect, who shapes the stage from behind the curtain, endures. In the age of spectacle, The greatest victory is anonymity wrapped in omnipresence. But the law of illusion spares no one, not even those who command it. The longer one lives within the theater of appearances, the more one becomes its prisoner. The actor forgets where performance ends and being begins. The ruler begins to believe in his own myth, mistaking applause for authority, charisma for legitimacy, admiration for love. And when he believes too much, he loses the detachment required to rule. The illusion consumes him, and the audience, sensing weakness, devours its own idol. Every fallen king, every ruined leader, every forgotten genius shares the same fate. They began as masters of appearance and ended as victims of it. This is the tragedy of power. You must lie to govern, yet you must never believe the lie. The mask must be worn, but never loved. To rule is to live in tension between what must be shown and what must be concealed, between illusion as weapon and illusion as disease. The strong learn to walk this edge without falling. The weak either tear off the mask in self-righteousness or cling to it in delusion. Both are destroyed. So what remains for the ruler who understands the law of illusion? Discipline, control, silence. The ability to see through every mask, even your own, without tearing it away. You must cultivate detachment, not cynicism, vision, not sentiment. To master appearances is not to be enslaved by them, but to guide them as a sculptor guides marble. The image must serve the idea, not replace it. Use illusion as the painter uses light to reveal form, not to conceal emptiness. And when your time comes to step off the stage, do so with the grace of one who knows the truth behind the curtain, that power was never yours, only the illusion of power. That men never loved you, only the reflection you offered them. That the world is not ruled by gods or heroes, but by actors who understand that belief is the currency of obedience. Appearances rule the world not because men are blind, but because they prefer the beauty of shadow to the burden of light. Thus ends the lesson of illusion. Rule the eye, and you rule the mind. Rule the mind, and you rule the world. But forget, even for a moment, that the world itself is an illusion, and it will rule you. The more one studies the architecture of power, the clearer it becomes that the world is not governed by wisdom, but by theater. The machinery of politics, diplomacy, and empire turns not on truth, but on choreography, on the careful sequence of gestures that make authority appear natural. Power must look inevitable to be obeyed. Men will kneel before strength, but only if it looks divine. They will fight for freedom, but only if the struggle feels noble. They will die for causes they do not understand, so long as those causes shimmer with grandeur. The ruler's task, therefore, is not to convince the mind, but to seduce the imagination. The successful leader is less a commander than a director orchestrating scenes that align the instincts of men with the interests of the state. The speech, the gesture, the pause, the silence, each is a weapon. The eye reads what the ear cannot hear, and so the wise ruler learns to use presence as persuasion. A glance can be more powerful than a decree, a symbol more enduring than a constitution. The greatest achievements of power are not written in laws but engraved in memory. To endure, a ruler must learn to write not on paper, but upon the imagination of his people. The appearance of control often matters more than control itself. Even chaos, when properly staged, can inspire faith. A ruler who can appear calm while the storm rages around him becomes the still point of a frightened world. This calm is not serenity, it is discipline. It is the art of mastering one's own fear to preserve the illusion of certainty. For when the ruler trembles, the people panic. When the ruler hesitates, the army falters. When the ruler doubts, the empire crumbles. Thus, he must learn to hide emotion as a warrior hides his wound, not from vanity, but from necessity. Appearances rule not because the world is foolish, but because it is unstable. In an age of uncertainty, perception becomes the only solid ground. Men cling to appearances as they cling to faith, desperate for something to believe in. The wise ruler feeds this hunger, giving form to their formless anxieties. He becomes the architect of meaning, constructing order out of their confusion. Power is not domination, it is stabilization. To rule is to prevent collapse, to create illusions strong enough to keep chaos at bay. This is why appearances must always be simple. The crowd cannot bear complexity. They will worship an image, but they will distrust an argument. They will follow symbols, but they will flee from nuance. Therefore, the ruler must distill vision into simplicity, not because he lacks depth, but because the masses lack patience. The illusion must be elegant, repeatable, and emotionally resonant. Complexity is the privilege of the few. Clarity is the weapon of the ruler. The man who can make his lies appear simple will always defeat the man whose truth is complicated. But simplicity without control breeds danger. When the illusion grows too perfect, it begins to live without its creator. The myth starts to feed upon itself, demanding new sacrifices, new enemies, new spectacles to sustain belief. Every movement that begins as an idea ends as an idol, and every idol eventually demands blood. The wise ruler must know when to break his own illusion, when to let the people glimpse just enough truth to remind them of his indispensability. He must govern the rhythm of faith and doubt, belief and disillusionment, revelation and concealment. Power survives not through permanence, but through renewal. And yet, even as the ruler manipulates appearances, he must never lose sight of substance. Illusion without strength is theater without an army. A symbol means nothing if it cannot be enforced. The appearance of justice must be supported by real punishment. The appearance of generosity must rest on actual control of wealth. The appearance of power must be anchored in force. The wise ruler balances image with capability, a mask backed by iron. The fool confuses illusion for reality and builds palaces out of mirrors. The realist knows that the mirror must always reflect the sword. Power without appearance provokes rebellion. Appearance without power invites contempt. The ruler must therefore exist between these two dangers, appearing gentle enough to be loved, but strong enough to be feared. Men love the illusion of virtue, but they obey the illusion of strength. The one who can appear both virtuous and strong has discovered the formula of command. This is the dual mask of leadership: compassion in expression, ruthlessness in action. To be loved for what you appear to be and feared for what you are is the perfection of political art. Illusion is not merely the veil that hides power, it is the light that gives it shape. Without illusion, power is invisible. Without power, illusion is hollow. The two feed one another, like shadow and flame. The ruler who understands this duality achieves mastery over both perception and reality. He becomes the invisible architect of the visible world. Every smile conceals a calculation. Every concession hides a command. Every gesture of peace carries the threat of war. This is not cruelty, it is equilibrium. To preserve order, one must wield contradiction. And still, beyond all manipulation, a quiet truth endures. Every ruler is ultimately ruled by the illusions he creates. No matter how carefully he crafts them, he must live inside them. To preserve the faith of his people, he must preserve the performance. To maintain the illusion of order, he must never show his exhaustion. The crown grows heavier with every false dawn he must pretend to welcome. And yet he endures, because the mask has become indistinguishable from the man. In this, there is both tragedy and immortality. The tragedy is that he will never again know himself outside the illusion. The immortality is that the illusion, once perfected, will outlive him. It will become legend, detached from the flawed man who created it, purified by time into myth. And that, perhaps, is the highest form of rule. Not to be loved, not even to be obeyed, but to be believed in long after one's bones have turned to dust. For in the end, it is not truth that survives the centuries, but appearance. Truth fades with witnesses. Illusion endures in memory. The monument, the portrait, the anthem, the myth, these are the true heirs of power. Appearances rule the world because they are all that the world remembers. The rest is silence, swallowed by time, forgotten beneath the marble smile of history's mask. Every age has rewritten the script of illusion, dressing it in the language of its own values. The pharaoh ruled through divinity, convincing his people that the Nile itself obeyed his will. The Roman emperor staged triumphs that blurred war and theater, marching conquered kings through streets that smelled of incense and blood. The medieval monarchs wrapped themselves in religious ceremony so that their rule appeared to descend from heaven, not from force. When the divine mask shattered, the illusion simply changed shape. The people no longer bowed to God's chosen, but to the will of the people, which itself became a new sacred fiction. Each illusion justifies the next, because humanity cannot live without the story that power tells. In modern times, the theater has not disappeared. It is multiplied. The politician no longer needs a crown, he has the camera. The platform replaces the pulpit, the speech replaces the sermon, and the audience, now infinite, judges not by truth but by performance. The digital age has democratized illusion, allowing everyone to become both actor and spectator. Every post, every photograph, every headline becomes a mask carefully designed to project control, virtue, or outrage. In this empire of appearances, truth has become negotiable currency traded, exaggerated, manipulated, and repackaged into narratives that serve competing ambitions. Consider the marketplace. The merchant no longer sells objects, but identities. Every brand whispers the same political truth disguised as commerce. Appear as you wish to be seen, and the world will treat you accordingly. A perfume promises sophistication, a car promises dominance, a piece of technology promises transcendence. The illusion of superiority sustains the machine of consumption. Just as rulers feed their subjects dreams of belonging and power, corporations feed their customers illusions of individuality and freedom. The consumer is not buying the object, but the appearance of self. Thus, illusion expands from the palace to the pocket. In diplomacy, appearances have replaced armies as the front line of power. Nations no longer conquer by invasion, but by reputation. A photo with the right handshake can move markets more than an army division. A leader's hesitation, caught by a camera, can cause alliances to crumble. The theater of global politics is sustained not by treaties, but by posture, by how a state appears on the world stage. The diplomat's smile hides more weapons than a soldier's belt. Illusion here becomes language, subtle, coded, deadly. One misstep in performance can trigger the real consequences of war. Even religion, which once claimed to rise above appearance, now bends to its laws. The sermon is broadcast, the faith is branded, the sacred is staged. The leader of faith must appear relatable to remain adored. The camera replaces the confessional, and belief becomes a performance of virtue in the public square. Spiritual truth bends to the demand of optics. It must look pure, even when it has been emptied of meaning. The appearance of holiness becomes more important than its substance, for perception sanctifies power more effectively than prayer. Look also to revolutions. They begin in smoke and fire, declaring an end to illusion, but always they end by creating new ones. The banner changes color, the anthem changes melody, the ideology changes name, yet the performance continues. The revolutionary begins as the destroyer of false appearances, and ends as their newest architect. He builds new myths, new symbols, new slogans that give his victory legitimacy. The old illusion is condemned as tyranny, the new illusion proclaimed as truth. History does not progress, it changes costume. In the modern empire of media, perception has become not just an instrument of rule, but a battlefield of survival. The journalist, the influencer, the activist, the politician, all compete for the illusion of moral authority. Each seeks to appear more truthful than the other, more outraged, more virtuous, more enlightened. The audience no longer seeks wisdom, it seeks confirmation. The screen becomes the throne from which reality is decreed, and those who command attention command the new age of power. In such a world, silence is not neutrality, it is disappearance. Even love, which seems the last refuge from politics, has been conquered by illusion. The performance of affection, the appearance of passion, loyalty, or virtue often outweighs the substance of feeling itself. Relationships are negotiated as alliances, maintained through the careful exchange of curated impressions. Men and women learn to seduce not through truth, but through strategic performance. To love is to deceive gracefully. To appear desirable is to survive. Even intimacy in this world is theater. The courtroom, too, has become a stage. Justice is performed, not always delivered. The lawyer crafts the illusion of innocence. The prosecutor crafts the illusion of guilt. The verdict depends not on truth, but on which illusion the audience finds more believable. The robes, the ritual, the solemn tone, all are devices meant to make power appear fair. Without them, justice would collapse under the weight of its contradictions. The illusion preserves the dignity of a system that cannot always match its ideals. The military, though rooted in discipline and realism, understands illusion better than anyone. Camouflage, misdirection, and deception are not betrayals of war, they are its essence. The general who can appear weak invites his enemy's overconfidence. The general who appears invincible prevents battle altogether. The battlefield itself is shaped by illusion, the false retreat, the feigned assault, the invisible reinforcement. War, like politics, is a theater where those who control perception control fate. Even science, which claims allegiance to truth, must dress itself in appearances to be believed. The white coat, the laboratory, the language of certainty, these are not mere necessities of study, but symbols of authority. The masses do not understand the experiment, they trust the appearance of precision. The scientist, like the priest, must perform confidence. The illusion of certainty gives shape to the chaos of discovery. Without it, the truth would be too complex to govern, too uncertain to obey. Observe the city. Its architecture is the language of illusion in stone. The skyscraper is not merely a structure, it is a symbol of dominance, an announcement of presence. Nations build monuments not to honor truth, but to perform permanence. The ruler erects them to appear eternal, knowing he is not. Even in decay, the illusion remains. The ruins of power still command awe long after the empire has vanished, because appearances outlive reality. The shadow survives the body. And what of the people? They are not passive victims of illusion, they are its co-creators. They demand spectacle, crave symbols, and reward deception that flatters their dreams. They know, deep down, that much of what they believe is performance, and yet they continue to believe, because illusion offers coherence in a world that terrifies them with its chaos. To be deceived beautifully is easier than to live truthfully in despair. That is the secret pact between ruler and ruled. Deception given, illusion received, both necessary for survival. So, the lesson endures from pharaohs to presidents. From pulpits to screens, appearances rule the world because men prefer meaning to truth. They crave the order of illusion over the freedom of reality. Power is not the conquest of men, but the guidance of their imagination. The ruler's hand is unseen, his weapon invisible, his victory psychological. And the final irony is this: though every man resents illusion when he sees it, he cannot live without it. He will destroy one illusion only to kneel before another, because in the silence where truth reigns alone, there is nothing left to worship, only the unbearable void. Appearances rule the world because power itself is invisible. It cannot be touched, held, or owned. It must be perceived. Authority exists only so long as others believe it exists. The illusion sustains the structure. The moment belief falters, command dissolves. That is why every ruler, every system, every institution is built upon the constant maintenance of image. Reality bends before perception. Substance serves the silhouette. What is unseen does not matter, only what can be seen, and more importantly, what can be believed to be seen. The essence of leadership is therefore not action, but projection. One must not only rule, but appear to rule rightly, decisively, unflinchingly. The gaze of others must never catch hesitation, confusion, or doubt. The world's obedience depends upon its impression of strength. The ruler must construct an atmosphere in which his image governs before his word does. The illusion precedes the order. It prepares the mind to accept command as destiny rather than coercion. Appearances do not hide reality, they create it. Power flows through perception, because the mind of man is shaped not by logic, but by vision. What one sees defines what one believes, and what one believes dictates what one obeys. Appearances are not ornaments. They are the architecture of conviction. The world is persuaded not by truth but by clarity, not by authenticity but by confidence. In the theater of survival, the one who shapes appearances writes the law of human behavior. Men act not according to what is true, but according to what seems inevitable. To master appearances is to become the silent sculptor of destiny. It is to guide the eyes of others so precisely that their own judgment serves your intention without their awareness. The art of illusion is not deception for its own sake. It is control exercised through imagination. Every visible gesture must conceal design. Every word must veil motive. Every presence must imply inevitability. The ruler who grasps this law ceases to chase loyalty and begins to command faith. The people's hearts are not won by persuasion. They are captured by perception. The world's hierarchy rests upon this unspoken principle. The appearance of legitimacy sustains governments. The appearance of stability sustains economies. The appearance of unity sustains nations. Behind every institution lies the unbroken chain of human perception, the belief that things are as they appear to be. Once that chain is fractured, chaos emerges. That is why appearance is not the enemy of truth, but its container. It gives shape to power, boundary to ambition, and meaning to obedience. Appearances rule the world because human beings are creatures of narrative. They require symbols to make sense of force, faces to make sense of authority, gestures to make sense of fear. Without appearances, power is abstract, and abstraction cannot command devotion. The visible form transforms the invisible will into structure. A ruler is obeyed not because of who he is, but because his image embodies the idea of command. The illusion makes the idea tangible, and the tangible makes submission natural. To rule by appearances is not to lie, but to understand that truth has no influence without form. The ruler must learn to give shape to belief, motion to loyalty, weight to perception. Those who speak of sincerity without image are like generals who enter battle without strategy, defeated before the first blow. Appearances are not masks placed upon weakness. They are instruments through which order is conducted. They are not obstacles to understanding. They are the grammar of power itself. And so, the law of illusion stands above all others. Power must be seen to exist, or it does not exist at all. A ruler unseen is a ruler forgotten. A truth invisible is a truth denied. What governs mankind is not the substance of reality, but the choreography of perception. Appearances rule the world because they are the world's language, the bridge between what is real and what can be ruled. Whoever speaks that language fluently does not need to conquer by force. He conquers by belief. To govern through appearance is to understand that perception is the first form of order. Before law, before loyalty, before the sword, there must be vision. The mind of the people must see power before it can feel it. If it cannot see, it will not fear. If it does not fear, it will not obey. Appearances are therefore not decoration but foundation. They are the architecture that holds up the invisible cathedral of authority. When the image of power is intact, even weakness can rule. When the image cracks, even truth becomes irrelevant. This is the final refinement of Machiavelli's law, that illusion is not opposed to power, but identical with it. To appear strong is to be strong. To appear stable is to be stable. Men act upon appearances, and in acting, they make them real. Every ruler must therefore master the circular dance between perception and fact to create images that evoke behavior, and behavior that reinforces the image. The illusion becomes reality, because humanity needs coherence more than truth. In the mechanics of command, the ruler's greatest instrument is ambiguity. A clear illusion is a fragile illusion. The most powerful appearances are those that can be read in many ways, allowing every man to see in them what he wishes. The people must be able to find in their ruler the reflection of their own desires, strength for the fearful, hope for the hopeless, order for the chaotic. Ambiguity makes power universal. It allows the ruler to reign without explanation, for explanation is the death of illusion. To explain is to expose, and exposure is to diminish mystery. The invisible hand rules because it is unseen. To rule through appearances requires not constant speech, but controlled silence. Noise betrays uncertainty, Silence implies confidence. The most effective ruler is not the loudest, but the one whose mere presence defines direction. To appear inevitable is greater than to appear just. The people will forgive cruelty, but never doubt. They can tolerate injustice, but never weakness. And weakness is not defined by failure, but by exposure, by the loss of composure in the face of scrutiny. The ruler's greatest strength is therefore his ability to remain opaque, to allow his actions to shimmer with intention without ever revealing their core. The machinery of modern influence is nothing more than the evolution of this law. Every image, every headline, every symbol is an act of governance. The one who shapes attention shapes belief. The one who shapes belief shapes behavior. The ruler no longer commands armies, he commands perception. And yet, this power is more dangerous than ever, for it must be renewed every instant. In an age of constant visibility, disappearance is death. Illusion must now be continuous. Like light, for even a moment's shadow can suggest decay. Yet within this endless theater lies the truth of survival. To endure, the ruler must withdraw inwardly from the illusion he creates. He must learn to act while remaining unseen, to manipulate without attachment, to project without believing. Those who fall are not defeated by others, but by themselves, by the comfort of their own image, by the intoxication of their own myth. The ruler who believes his appearance ceases to rule it. He becomes its servant. To command illusion, one must never forget that it is illusion. Appearances rule the world because the world is not built upon truth, but upon trust. And trust is born from what seems, not what is. Men do not give allegiance to reality, they give it to representation. They do not follow certainty, but the semblance of it. To master this is to understand the deepest secret of political realism, that the soul of mankind is not rational but theatrical, and that the stage is eternal. Every century merely changes the scenery, the script remains the same. Power survives not by revelation, but by concealment. The wise ruler governs not by showing the truth, but by shaping the mirror in which it is reflected. And so, the law endures. Appearances rule the world, for the world itself is in appearance a theater, where illusion is not the enemy of reality, but its twin. Whoever learns to move between them without confusion commands both men and fate. To understand why appearances rule the world, one must accept a truth that most cannot bear. Humanity's faith rests not in what is real, but in what feels real. The heart demands certainty, even if it must invent it. The mind craves order, even if it must be deceived. Power survives by supplying this necessity, by turning uncertainty into image, chaos into story, and fear into purpose. The ruler's role, therefore, is not to fabricate lies for pleasure, but to create coherence in a world that would otherwise collapse under its own confusion. Illusion is the scaffolding of civilization. Without it, the human animal reverts to the wild. Those who rule understand this instinctively. They know that people follow not the truth, but the vision that flatters their longing. Appearances rule because they are the bridge between imagination and obedience. The crowd does not demand evidence, it demands faith. And faith is the strongest form of control, because it is self-sustaining. Once people believe, they defend the illusion themselves. They silence doubt not to protect the ruler, but to protect their own meaning. A perfect illusion no longer needs enforcement. It governs from within the human mind. That is the highest form of power, not to command by fear or force, but to become the reality through which others interpret existence. When appearances reach this level of mastery, they cease to be deception and become world-building. The ruler ceases to manipulate appearances and instead embodies them. His image becomes archetype, not a reflection of himself, but a symbol by which generations measure power, loyalty, and legitimacy. The illusion outlives its creator because it satisfies something eternal in the human spirit, the desire to see strength made visible. But there is danger in mastery. The same illusion that governs others begins to consume its author. The ruler becomes haunted by the perfection of his own creation. To maintain control, he must continue to feed the image that defines him, sacrificing the man behind the mask for the mask itself. He must never show fatigue, never betray confusion, Never permit the audience to glimpse his humanity, for if they do, the spell breaks, and what was divine becomes ordinary. The ruler dies not by assassination but by recognition. The moment the illusion is seen for what it is, it ceases to rule. And yet, this is the paradox that defines all power. Illusion is fragile, but indispensable. It can never be made eternal, only renewed through vigilance, intelligence, and detachment. The ruler must walk between appearance and reality, as a tightrope artist walks above the void, balanced, composed, aware that one false movement can end everything. Power is maintained not through strength, but through equilibrium. Thus, the law concludes as it began. Appearances rule the world because men cannot rule themselves. They need something to believe in, something to obey, something to see. And so, he who understands how to shape what is seen, how to project inevitability, how to radiate purpose, how to cloak force in beauty, becomes the quiet architect of every age. For the truth of power is not found in the sword or the crown, but in the gaze that follows them. The ruler does not conquer reality, he conquers perception, and in doing so, he conquers the world. In the end, every kingdom, every movement, every faith is sustained by what can be seen, not by what is true. Power is not the triumph of force, but the perfection of illusion. The ruler who understands this no longer fights to convince. He shapes belief itself. He becomes the unseen author of vision, the hand behind the curtain, the quiet force that bends perception until men mistake appearance for destiny. This is the final mastery, not of armies, not of wealth, but of imagination. Appearances rule the world because mankind cannot bear a naked truth. They need the shimmer of certainty, the grace of form, the promise of meaning. Without illusion, hope dies. Without hope, obedience fades. The wise ruler gives shape to both. He cloaks power in virtue, wraps ambition in duty, dresses control in compassion. He does not lie, he translates necessity into beauty, fear into order, chaos into faith. His genius is not deceit, but transformation. When he finally withdraws into the silence of history, what remains is not the man, but the image, the idea of him, endlessly reflected in memory. The illusion becomes legend, and legend becomes law. This is the immortality of appearances. They outlive those who created them, because they give the world something it cannot create for itself, the illusion of coherence in the storm of truth. And so the law stands eternal, unbroken across centuries and empires. It is not truth that governs men, but what they believe to be true. Not reality that shapes history, but its reflection. Power is not about being, but about seeming. And he who commands the mirror commands the age. For in this world, as in every world before it, appearances rule all.